Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we have Karen Watt Cowan from Iconix Printing. I'm really excited to talk to you today because you are a fundamental part of a lot of our trading card stuff and everything. Welcome, Karen.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, as Ingrid said, we all use Karen, well, nicely. The products they produce are absolutely fantastic for us. I'd like to start off by asking you how did your business start, and how did you then progress into producing sketch cards and printed cards and all that?
Well, we started back in '99 out of a garage. I was still working outside, and my husband he does better if he's his own boss. So he kind of, went through a few things and settled on doing this printing. He got the idea, way back in '99 when the internet wasn't really, what it is now, but he got the idea to start out doing the business cards. And then we slowly just added different things, and it was kind of tricky. I guess if we had known how tricky it was going to be to find resources and coordinate everything, we might not have done it. But we were young and had a lot of energy, so it kind of started from there. And he did all the initial work, figuring out how to go about getting a business license and getting us set up, and doing all of that, and doing building out forms, learning computer language, and writing his own programs. And he did it all. He did a lot of the hard work, and I didn't really come on board until maybe 2-3 years later, because I was still working outside to have some income. But that's what it was, out of a garage, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what products did you start with? You say you started with business cards, and then you started adding. At what point did you start thinking about sketch cards?
Oh, goodness gracious. That didn't happen until I would say around 2005. We were in California when we started, and we moved to Tennessee in 2005. So maybe even a couple of years after that, because when the economy was taking a downturn, and we've been doing gangbusters, mainly doing the business cards, stationery, folders. But things were getting kind of quiet because the economy was having a downturn. So people are going to put those kinds of items by the wayside. So I took it upon myself to develop into the trading cards and sketch cards. And it's oddly enough, how it was a weird way to stumble into it. But my kids were going to college. So I signed up for Facebook as a mother's desperate attempt to keep in touch with her children that don't come home anymore because they're away at school. And I stumbled upon the sketch card community. I had done, sketch cards and trading cards here and there, but never on the level as I do now. But I discovered that there was a need, and I had the time on my hands. So I went ahead and just started to research it, kind of like how we did when we first started. And I have a background as a purchasing agent. One of my first jobs was as a purchasing agent. So that taught me how to research. So I just kind of just dove in. I took it upon myself to learn about papers, So I had the resources I already had in hand. They were very good about holding my hand and explaining to me how to learn about papers. I realized that a lot of people, well, a lot of other print resources, they don't take the time to explain or find things, and really try to help people. So
That's for true.
yeah, so I'm a real, don't tell me no kind of person. And I saw that there was a need. So I just went and kind of, did all the research myself, and started to see if I could help, the artists. And I would say, well, Richard is very instrumental. Richard Parks. He found me by some miracle, and we've been working together for several years. But on Facebook, Rusty Gilligan, Laugh Lim, and Roy Cover, those three people were the first Facebook friends I had as artists. And they were very instrumental in helping me to meet the artist community. They were very open and giving about information and what they needed. They were very helpful. I used to send them a million different kinds of paper stocks, and they took time to test them out to let me know if, the stock was crap. Pardon my French, or if it was really good. So there's a few people in the community that just welcomed me and helped me with this. And we're a family. I'll do anything I can
now, I think, since you've started. If I'm not mistaken, you have provided blank sketch cards for, the good kind of blank sketch cards for a lot of different artists and
goes back included, I think, as well. Yeah.
I just found ways. Again, it has mostly to do with you can't tell me it can't be done, and you can't tell me no. I just would talk to my resources and figure out why they don't do certain things, and then I would try to figure out ways around it. I'm just a facilitator.
So you are for Iconix. You're the one who grew the sketch card part and the trading card part of the company. That's really
yes.
you. But when you print the cards, it's not like at your home or something that you print the cards. You get other companies to print them.
Yes, we're called print brokers because we actually do graphic design, but we broker the printing. So that's another part of it. That's a good question, because what we did was we had to search out resources to work with. And so our resources are all across the United States. And, it doesn't make sense to just have one or two resources, because, certain printers do certain items really well and not other items. So even if they have, 100 service, items, they do a handful of them well. So we search out resources that do different things well. And then, we learn about what our clients need, and we fit the client's needs to the resource that will do it the best for, the most cost effectively. And that takes a while, because other resources, print resources, and other businesses that might have been doing something similar, they're not going to give away their resources.
No.
So, you just have to, I spent a lot of time on the internet just talking to resources and then determining if they were going to be a fit or not. And then you have to go through the whole thing where you have to apply to be a broker and, get your wholesale and, to see if it's going to work. And sometimes I pick people up and then they don't do well and I'll drop them. But it's tricky, because I feel like it reflects on us, even though we're not the printers. If they screw up, I look bad, not, so I try really hard to find people that are similar, that care, so that, if God forbid something goes wrong, they'll fix it, they'll work with us.
Yeah.
If I have to eat it because I made a mistake, I'll eat it because I'm not going to lose a customer.
What range of cards do you offer? Are you open to trying different cards that maybe you haven't produced before, or do you offer a set range of cards?
Well, how it's worked historically for us is we'll do anything. Because we're actually a graphic design place, you can ask us anything, and with our knowledge of, the industry, we'll know what can and can't be done. We'll offer options, basically, if you've got the budget, it can be done. So the budget is what keeps something from happening. But again, I like to be, I don't like to be told no. So I will try to figure out ways to make things happen. And
when it comes for instance, international projects, like I'm in Canada, Lindsey's in the UK, our needs might be a little bit different. And also shipping comes into effect, which is a really, yes, it's a depressing fact of life, but it touches absolutely everybody's business if you're doing something internationally. What could you say for people such as Lindsey, where I think it's more costly than for me even to ship outside of countries? Are there ways to kind of get around it without breaking the law or anything?
That is an area that I know I could probably learn a lot more about. But since what happens is we're bound by our resources and what they offer so far as shipping options. Normally, they'll drop ship, they'll ship direct, but whatever they charge is what I have to charge. What I do is I always check having it shipped to us and then checking what it would cost to then post. Post usually you can have a savings, but at the level that we order, it's not necessarily going to save you anything, because I'm not sending just, like an envelope. I'm sending a box, and in cases like with Richard, he's getting stuff freighted to him. There's so much. So, I mean, it's a balancing act, but I do, for my international customers, try to see if I can find a more cost-effective way. Sometimes the post works and sometimes it's through the supplier. And, depending on the item, it might, some resources are just, they have great shipping systems, and others are like, we only do it this way. And so you're kind of stuck. But I do, it always hurts me because I feel like I know that's just, like, oh, that's just for shipping. So
I remember when I ordered mine, you went out of your way to try and make it as cheap as possible for me, which I really appreciated. You found the cheapest possible way.
I try. I really try, to the best of my ability. I am definitely, I've got my hands tied, with postal rules and whatnot. And I'm not always aware of if there's any restrictions so far as, example, because I send out samples for free, and I had to send, I think it was to Afghanistan or some, someplace, that I don't send very often. So I didn't know that they don't accept mail from the US. And so I sent samples and it came right back. I don't know about certain things like that. So I try, but
Oh my goodness, that's shocking. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that of course that there's nothing that you can do about that. Are there particular numbers of cards that you will do, like small numbers, or does it have to be just big numbers? Like for companies, of course, it's going to be like for Richard Parch or something, or other companies, it would be like a lot. But for an artist like Lindsey or myself, if we wanted to order cards, well, it would probably be smaller, and there may be other artists that want even smaller numbers. What is your range?
This part is directed by the stock that you choose, because my resources will set what quantity ranges they'll offer. So I would say as a range, it can start anywhere from like 50 cards, and some places start at 500.
Okay, so what's the determining factor? Is it like if the card is thicker, you have to order more? If the card is thinner, you can order fewer, or is it something else?
Well, it'll be their printing restrictions, won't it? It'll be how many they're prepared to print.
You know, it has to do with the resource that has the paper stock. This is really kind of a tricky thing, because I have to get all the information from my customer as to what they want, and then I cull from my resources what's going to fit. So I never know, initially what's going to be the minimum, what's going to be, the base pricing. I have a range I can tell them, and that's part of the reason why the samples are a great tool. It saves a lot of people a lot of trouble. You as artists are not going in blind by just saying, well, you recommended this stock, I'll take a leap of faith and throw $200 at you and hope it works. You try the stock first, so you know what you're getting. There's a whole, so that's a whole, bunch of trouble you're already bypassing.
Oh, there's nothing worse than having a whole pack of cards that you can't use because your media or whatever you use just won't work on it. I don't know how it is. Well, Lindsey works with her tools, which are slightly different than mine. And I also have plans for some future things that I'd like to try actually with you, Karen, eventually.
One thing I saw recently, sorry, I'm not just interrupting. I saw some sepia sketch card bases that you'd done. They are beautiful. I didn't even know you could get those.
Please talk about those.
Yeah.
Papers and things.
You can actually get, because they call it craft, that color, the brown, and that's been used, it's been used for a while, as just being something that's different. They also have, a similar kind of thing, but in gray.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, I've secured black stock for a client that wants to use white ink. And so he kind of does the, like the negative.
Yeah.
It's just that I would say resources right now, they do offer the craft stock, and it does get used fairly often. If you want the other colors, that's where you can ask me, and I have several resources that are actual paper mills, so I can just go on their sites and see what they offer. I've secured samples, sent it over, and you can test it to see if it's good, just like a regular white stock, to see if it'll work. You can basically ask me anything. As I was saying earlier, we specialize in custom work, and I'll do my best to find a way to make it work.
Do you have any issues with paper shortages?
I was just about to ask that.
Yes. Yes, we do. Right now, because of, the stuff going on with the world, there's a lot of problems with supply. And I would say, because the stocks we use the most is something also that our resources use a lot. They by contract have warehouses of the stock, but still whatever kind of delivery they may have schedule, that's what happens. They get delayed, and so it delays us. Some of the more specialty stocks is going to be where I probably will be, you'll notice the biggest kind of problems with supplies. But your favorite stock, the 32-point black edge, is I don't see that there should be any trouble with that, because everybody loves that stock. That is one of the best stocks I've ever located.
I've really I've used that now for almost 3 years, and I'll be ordering more for the last book project I'm working on, and it's fabulous. It's really good. It can stand up to anything. For those of you who are listening, you say it's 32, which I always forget. It's a good thing Karen is so good at this. 32 point, it's slightly thicker. So you do kind of need wider top loaders, because they don't quite fit into the regular top loaders, but they're not super thick like the Masterwork cards. Those are really thick. I don't think I've ever gotten cardstock quite that thick from you, although I'd like to try that one time. Those are.
I wanted to ask you something Ingrid touched on earlier. She mentioned booklets. I don't know if you print booklets or if they're just a single cards.
I can do anything. I really can. Yes, and yes, we do the booklets. I do, the double wides. I do triple wides. I do triple talls. I do, 2x2.
I know there'll be people interested.
Yeah.
But they now printed as well as for sketch cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got my brain going now. Sorry, carry on.
Well, yeah. Now, but the trick is, if you want the kind that fold, you are going to be limited by how thick the stock is, because when it gets too thick and you score it and try to fold it, it cracks. So
that's a really good point. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Well, there's things that the industry does to help with that kind of situation. They do something called a double scorer so that it folds over better, but that doesn't work on all thick stocks. Some stocks are very dense. So it wouldn't matter if you did a double score or triple score, it's still going to crack. Softer, fluffier stocks will fold better. Even though they're thicker, they'll fold better because they're softer. They're not as dense. So there's some flexibility to allow it. So I've had many people ask me if the 32-point black edge can be done with the scoring and the folding. Cannot.
I guess that would have to be done the book style, where you have yet another piece of card underneath, I guess, and it folds like that.
It could be done that way, yes. And that's done. And I've done some cards like that for customers. Ooh, it's a pretty penny. Okay. Because they have to glue the layers together, and it gets tricky with the kinds of paper you choose to be on the inside. You can use more cost-effective stock on the inside because you're not illustrating on it. But then, there's a million considerations as to if it would adhere well enough and whatnot. So I've done it. And geez, I think at the time it was a couple of grand just to do maybe a couple thousand of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, I think it was 5 layers. And it was the booklet where you can see it stacked and then it's got the empty spot in between so that you can fold it over. Yeah. So, I mean, we can do that. And that's one of those jobs that I was saying your budget is going to tell you if it's something you can actually, get. I mean, we can do it, but,
What other kind of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
I wanted to ask if as well as cards and stuff, I don't know if you deal with packaging, because I'm hoping to do my own sets soon. I'm hoping to find some way to package them. I know that there's a foil way you can do it, and then there's like little card boxes and things like that. I don't know if you have resources for those.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, we do.
My own set too, so we'll both be ordering from you.
See, and then you both speak to Richard a lot, and he can help you with a lot of the ins and outs and help you, not do some of the things he did do. But yes, we do packaging. The tricky part is when you want the pouches that are printed, because
Pouches, you mean
the silver pouches, and it has the flap down the back, and then it's the flat seal on the top and bottom. They call those fin seal flow packs. There's several ways, technical names for them. Those are the trickiest because historically, the way they're done, most places that do that kind of thing, they want 100,000.
Oh, okay.
They won't even start up the presses to do anything less.
Oh.
I know of 1 or 2 places that may do 50,000, and one place will do 10,000. But if the ones that do 10,000 even, they insist that they have to do all the printing of the cards as well. And my resources are way more competitive. So it's a tricky thing. And, there are alternatives. I found a packaging place that produces actual just the pouches. And then you can use a heat sealer. So, that's because, if you can't do 100,000, and you only want to do 1,000, heat sealing, collating and heat sealing really doesn't take that long. There's a little bit of, time investment, but, you can get that done. And I have
old papers. You could possibly get some nice printed, slightly bigger paper from you.
Yes.
And then, for small people like ourselves, like Lindsay and myself, we could just put the cards in and get a sticker on top.
Right. Right. And that's what a lot of the options are, is to, for the pouches, I sell the blank ones, and you get labels and print them, because if you, again, like I said, if you want them printed, you've got to hit a pretty high minimum.
Like what Lindsay said concerning like little boxes or something,
we do those.
That you can do, and you don't have to order 10,000 or something.
No, those could be anywhere from maybe 500 as a minimum. Some places their minimum is like 1,250. And, not near as much the kind of quantities that you'd find for the printed pouches.
Those numbers are a bit too big for somebody like myself, I must say. But for others who really do a lot of shows and things, I could see that to be an option.
What would be the roundabout price for something like that, for 500?
Oh. That's really nice.
I
wish I could pull numbers out of the air.
It's tricky, isn't it?
We're putting you on the spot, aren't we, Karen?
Well, yeah. Some things, it's easy enough to get numbers. Yeah. Right now, the trickiest part is the cost of gas, and it's affecting everyone,
Yeah.
right? And even my resources. And I've had resources that haven't bumped up pricing for, like 4 or 5 years. But recently, because of this situation with just even, talking about transportation, they've had to bump their pricing up. And it's, everybody's feeling it, and it affects, even the cost of doing the packaging and whatnot. Still, I have found alternatives. If you want a box, we can find box suppliers that have standard sizes and kind of try to work with their standard sizes. Richard does it a lot, where if there isn't something your size, then he works everything backwards, like the number of cards, so that it will fit into, a packaging. Sometimes you just got to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
With, and again, with Richard, he does the higher volume cards. And I figured out for him to just fill an entire press sheet. So he knows what number of cards will fill a sheet, and he will partner with other people and put their things together to fill a sheet. Because if you have a full sheet, that's cost effective to run.
Yeah.
And so he's done a really great thing in that he takes a lot of the little guys under his wings, and he does things, he'll group things together so that, it'll make it more cost effective for everyone. And that's something I've done in the past too. If I find that the only way to get something out is going to be, putting together, they call it a gang run. I've done that. I've just put out in the Facebook groups who's interested in this kind of thing. And then I get a bunch of people.
And I think it's a great idea, because, people might not think about that until they see your post, if they're lucky enough to see it. Because, of course, Facebook is weird, and sometimes you'll post something and nobody sees it, and another time you do and everybody sees it. You never know. But when you post and things like that, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I did when I first started, because people didn't know who I was. They didn't know if they could trust me. So, it was like getting stock samples, sending them out, talking and getting into the groups. And, I put together things like that so that they could see, like, they didn't have to invest a lot of money to see who Iconix was, what we do. So I did those things early on. And I didn't have as much of my resources in line back then also. So it was kind of, honing in and a learning curve on that. But that's helped me get to where I am now. And I understand so much more by, studying the papers and talking to inside people at my resources. And they're telling me why and why not for what they do, and, what I can do to make life simpler for them when I send in jobs. And, I just juggle. I've got different hats, because they don't usually talk to the person on the street.
What do you see the future for your company? Do you, well, for your part of the company, the cards, you also do, I'm kind of waffling here a little bit, but the future for sketch cards, and you do also print actual trading cards. Are you going to be experimenting with more papers on your own, or are you waiting for us artists to throw all kinds of questions at you to try different things? Or
well, I'm always searching out new things, new resources, new ways to do things, because new processes become available all the time in the industry. I would say, because right now we already offer like foil. We can do hot stamp, and we can do cold cold press. Hot stamp, you can only choose a color, but the cold press is full color foil. We can do foil, we can do embossing, we can do raised, we can do.
Really, is embossing extremely pricey?
Yes.
Okay, that was the answer.
Yes, but the industry is coming out with alternatives. And so, there's a lot of places now that offer raised foil. And, there's, I believe that the raised foil is, a good way to mimic embossing because it doesn't require a die for that shape of what you want raised. That's where the expense used to come in, because they'd have to create a die for the shape of, the foil or the emboss or engraving. And with the industry integrating lasers and whatnot, they're coming up with ways to have the same kind of look. So so we do the raised foil, we do the raised ink, we do the spot UV. We have stocks that are glittery. So the glittery stock's kind of a nice alternative if the foil cards are still, even though they're not as costly as they used to be, if that's still not in your budget, there's stock that's shimmery. So when you print on it, it kind of looks like foil. We can do holographic, we can do, we can. If you ask me, it's so hard because we always are bringing on new things as our resources are able to supply them. We're testing things all the time. I've done glow in the dark for Richard. So I found how to do that. As people ask me, I'll find ways to do it. And once that's under my belt, then that's a standard offering. So just because we don't or haven't done it yet doesn't mean we don't do it. We just find some place that will help us with it.
So I could come straight to Iconix and say, I'm going to be starting a Kickstarter. I'm going to need this many printed cards. I'm going to need a couple of special ones. I'm going to need packaging, and you're going to be able to help with all of that.
Yeah.
Magical.
Yeah. Yeah. So metal, wood, foil, paper. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome. I have a feeling you're going to be sending out samples to a bunch of artists pretty soon.
That's fine. That's fine. And I post every so often in the groups too, if somebody's asking about who should we use for sketch cards, and then people, will post, then I'll when I get in there, I'll also say, does anybody else want samples?
I love the reaction you get. Somebody will say, where shall I get sketch cards from? And Karen.
Yeah.
I worked hard for that, and I appreciate it.
About your customers, don't you? And you want to do the best for them. And I think people know that. They
Yeah.
know they're being looked after, definitely.
And the two of us, both Lindsey and I, and a lot of others have had cards from you, and I can personally say they are really the best cards. They are really good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got absolutely no complaints at all, and the quality on the front, I can use pretty much anything I need. The quality on the back is gorgeous. It's great stuff.
Happy customers.
Well, thank you. It took some work to get there. Try and stay there.
I have no doubt you'll stay there. When an artist or a company comes to you, what is the most important thing you need to know from them in order to be able to give them what they're wanting? Because for somebody, I remember the first time I went to you, I was like, I have no idea what I'm asking. I don't know what to ask for, so I had to rely on you to help me with that. What do you need to know from an artist when they order from you?
Oh, gee. Actually, everything, whatever is in, on their mind. And so sometimes they don't know, like you were saying, the first time you talked to me, you didn't necessarily know quantities, stock, anything. So I tell a lot of people, tell me what your ideal situation is. And then I tell them what's possible, how it's possible, and then it kind of hones in. So it's, you know, just tell me everything you can about what you want. And then I'll translate it into, you know, what's available in the industry. So it's helpful though to know, you know, some idea about what quantity, how many different designs, what kind of stock, you know, if you need packaging.
That's a good point. People might be interested to know that I think within an order of cards, say if you order 500 cards, you can actually order 2 different designs within that number, can't you?
Yes
I
and
mean,
no.
the same stock, but like 2 different backs.
Right. And how that works is, when I give pricing, it is only for one design. But if I am told that you have multiple designs, I will specifically quote for multiple designs, and you get a better rate the more different designs you order at the same time, or even multiple items. We will bundle them for you. So if I'm told what those distinctions are, I will make sure. I'm pretty good. I usually put what a price for one set is, and then I do like the combination pricing, so you can see what kind of deal you're getting when you do groupings. Because that makes things simpler for me, because everything ships at once, everything orders at once. You know, there's some coordination, but then, you know, with anything in life, if you can do things in groupings, right, then you get everything ushed through to the end much more efficiently. You don't have to keep, you know.
As an example, say if you had, I'm pulling just straight out of my mind here, if you had like, well, for instance, Lindsey has a bunch of cons coming up. So for instance, if you wanted to print 500 cards or something, and you wanted to print for all on the same stock, on the same card stock, but the backs, you might want to have them slightly different for each event, you could do that then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now my mind is going. That's awesome to know. But so you have to stay with the same stock for that, though. You can't like mix the stocks.
Well, you can, but what may end up happening is they're not coming from all the same resource. And that happens a lot if you're getting sketch cards and then just trading cards, because the sketch cards are more specialized. So, you know, they're likely to be from a different resource than the trading cards. Again, I'll still coordinate it. You might get a little bit less of a discount because they are coming from separate areas. So, you know, the shipping might be a little higher because you're going to be shipping from one for the sketch cards and the other for the trading cards. But I mean, I could still coordinate it so that it's, you know, all on one invoice. You know, they all get ordered at the same time. I'll figure it out. You know, I'll find the most cost-effective way on the most ideal stock for a situation there is. I will do all the logistics. So yeah, you can have it. You can have it that way.
I'm going to say goodbye, Karen. You carry on talking to Ingrid, but I've got to go and pick up my little boy now. I can't leave it any longer, but it's been so nice to meet you and talk to you today, and I will definitely be in touch when I start my project, and I'll be going, Karen, I need this, I need that, I need...
Yay! It's been lovely, and I'm glad to have met you face to face.
Oh, it's fantastic. You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, so it's you and me. We're almost at the end of this, so we'll just maybe tidy up a little bit some of the details. For instance, the different stocks and things like that. That's something that I was not aware of until recently the different designs on one stock and dividing up your, it's a whole science actually. When you're planning a project, whatever that project might be for different artists, you know, you might actually have to sit down and think about what it is you want from the sketch cards. You can
Right.
coordinate it with the trading cards. Actually, you could have a trading card set with the same backs as the sketch card set if you wanted, or if you
Right.
just wanted to do your own blank sketch cards to use as commissions, you can offer all kinds of things. I think most artists don't like it when the cardstock bleeds, you know. Some artists like tooth, some prefer a hot press, I think. But you pretty much have access to all of those things, don't you?
Yeah.
Is there anything you cannot produce?
I would say no, but it's just tricky because, again, it comes down to if it's going to be cost effective for my client. And I will explain to them, you know, I will go find the numbers and I will explain to them, you know, it's going to be a lot and it's going to be, you know, can you swing this? And sometimes it'll work. Sometimes it won't. I'm going to turn my phone off. Sorry, I should have turned that off. Stocks, though, you know, I get requests for specific stocks. And in fact, I'm working on one right now where historically I've only secured this stock for one customer. But again,
are you allowed to
put
say
it out on the
what stock
Facebook groups? And I said, I'm securing this stock for this artist. If you want this stock, there's no printing, it's blank, but I can secure it for you. You know, you've got until this date to let me know, then I can put together a paper order from the mill, have it sent to some mills will cut it down for you, you know, and, you know, I'll go figure out how to get it cut. And then it all ships to me. And then I got to go through the listing of who wants how many and send it out. Now that stock I'm working on right now, I'm trying to find some place that will work with me to print on it. And it's a Strathmore stock, and people are familiar with Strathmore.
Yes,
It's one of the Strathmore art boards that are usually only available through the art supply retail. But
so that would be like a mixed media type of surface, or?
I wish I could answer that.
Okay.
I don't know. But it's something that it's a Strathmore stock that's usually only, like I said, through the big art supply stores. And even the actual paper company doesn't actively wholesale it to print houses or people like me. They want to keep it strictly in the art supply arena. So I had to do some
You had to do some
tricky
negotiating.
things to get it from the resource. But I'm able to get it from the mill, the actual paper mill, and, you know, get that out. Right now, they're only blanks, but I'm working on getting it printed. And that's probably going to happen. And you'll probably see something like that in the groups pretty soon.
Will you,
So
think you'll
yeah.
have any extras for samples? I'd love to have a sample of that.
Oh, I could send that to you right now. I have samples already.
Oh, awesome. Do you
So
have,
I'll send you a few.
do you have things like canvas cards, watercolor cards? Can you do anything like that?
There is a stock. I think you've used it. You've tested it. That is the canvas texture stock.
Yes, actually, yes.
So there's the 34 is it 35 34 35 point. Yeah, I think it's 35 point. It's they call it pearl canvas. I've got that. I could get, a lot of times they call it linen texture. It's that same kind of weave.
Yes.
There's a lot of linens out there that I could secure, because linen's fairly common. I don't get a lot of takers on it, so I usually only do those as a custom, but I have a resource that does that canvas card as a standard. So I'm like, well, even though I don't get a lot of people ordering that, that's a standard off of a couple of my resources.
And how about the watercolor cards? Would you ever have any access to that with certain papers?
That's another tricky one, because most of the print houses don't offer the watercolor papers.
Okay.
So that's something I'd have to do, kind of like what I was talking about, that one specialty stock. I'd have to order that special. And I'd have to send it off to a handful of my resources to test print on, to see if they can print on it. So, and if it's going to look reasonable or not. So, but I could do that. I don't have a problem with it. I get some requests for the watercolor paper, but the black edge seems to work for the watercolor people. I mean, like I said, it seems to work. I don't have anything that's, people love yet, but that's something I'm always working on. I'm always trying to find other stocks. And so, some things may fall off the side, after a while, and other things. So again, Richard kind of keeps me on track. He'll say, hey, find this, keep looking, I I got a little disappointed one time, because for a while I was telling people I can do wood and I can do metal. And then recently, maybe within the last couple of years, somebody came out with wood cards, and I was so upset, because I'm like, hey, that was my idea. I could do this.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
it wasn't really my idea. I just, like I said, I thought it was kind of funny, because I can do that. I have resources that will do,
I have actually worked on, well, a lot of us have worked on wood cards, but
Yeah.
I've only worked on 2 different companies' sets of wood cards. If ever you had some to sample, I and probably a few other artists too would probably be interested in trying that. I know not everybody likes them, and that's, totally fine, but they can be really fun to work on. And then the metal cards that you mentioned, very interesting. I would like to try the metal cards one time with you.
Yeah, the metal.
Those must be pricey though.
They are. The metal, they're not really, they're more for like a specialty trading card in a set kind of thing, because I don't think I've ever had anybody actually use them like a sketch card. They're, but we could do them, and we can do it with the print, or we can do it with the laser cutouts. But yeah, but I mean, we can do them.
That would be an interesting trial. I mean, there are a couple of, I think the Pernis sets, they have metal cards, metal on the back and then paper on the front, and that makes for a really nice card.
Yeah. See, and the tricky thing, I know the industry hasn't really found. Well, they found a way, but most of the metal cards, they print on the front only. They're not able to print on the back. It's a label. It's how it's done right now with the machinery, where they can't do the back without causing trouble to the front. So that's usually how you'll see it. It's got a label on one side and printing on the other. And if it's got printing on both sides, it's actually 2 cards printed on one side that are stuck together. So I know the industry is working on a way to print on both sides.
Okay.
Reasonably. So, when that happens, then, I'll start offering that kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of things that's getting a little easier to do. Shaped cards are starting to become easier because, again, of lasers.
Have you done any shaped cards? I have never ordered any. I cannot say I personally really enjoy them, but there are those who absolutely love them. Have you produced some?
Yeah, we can do shaped cards. I'm working on a couple projects right now that's for shapes. It's still on the cards requires a die to get the shape, because the places that will do a laser cut is usually only for really small quantities. Kind of like when digital printing first came out, that was an alternate way to do small quantities of printing, not forcing people into doing, several thousand cards when they only needed, 25, 50, 100. Price per piece is more expensive, but then you're not forced into getting, more than you need. So that's kind of where that laser cutting kind of technology is right now. You can do smaller quantities. It's more price per piece. I don't see it a lot yet. It's still with the dies.
Okay.
And, then you got to pay for a die, and then they have to stamp it out. So most smaller places, unless there is a shape that's already available, because I have a lot of resources that have the dies that, they might have used for somebody else, or they've decided to keep some set shapes that will allow you to use the die. Yeah. So, most of the shapes that people ask me for is, it's specialty. So we have to get the dies made.
So for if you have like if there's anybody who wanted to order trading card sets printed on both sides, one design, 100, 200 cards or whatever like that, those you can offer at a pretty good price. Actually, I've had promo cards printed through you, and I'm blown away by, it's affordable, great quality. Can you do special things with those cards too? Trading card sets, can you offer, well, like you were talking about before, foil or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say the specialty processes may have not so small minimums, but you're not quite as forced into some of the higher quantities as might have historically been the case. I'd say some of my resources have them at like a 500 minimum, and some of them have it at 250. It's not usually smaller. I do actually have one resource that does foil, either the one color or the full color type, as little as, I want to say 100.
Yeah, okay, I think you mentioned that before, and that's pretty interesting. I'd totally be interested in that. And for a basic trading card set that someone, or just even one printed card, you can go for about 250, I think, eh? Like
I think so.
Like 250 cards. I don't mean $250, but 250 cards.
Yeah.
Pretty affordable. How much do you ask normally for a basic, one trading card, say 250 cards?
I don't know off the top of my head, but let's see.
Just a basic ballpark. I think for my one of my promo cards was, gosh, it was less than $60. I think $40, $50, something.
I can look it up.
Well, I think people could probably ask you, and it would be easier for them to maybe ask directly for their particular details and such. Where can people find you?
You can email me directly, Karen at Iconix.biz, KAREN at Iconix.biz, ICONIX.biz. You can hit me up on Facebook under my name, Karen Watt Cowan. Our website is Iconix.biz.
And on your website, you actually offer more things, I think. You offer book printing, booklet printing.
Yeah, you'll see kind of the basic stuff we offer on our website, because we are we add on things all the time. it's kind of hard to keep up with putting everything we do. And then we kind of wanted to keep it streamlined, because if we put everything we do, people get tired of looking. So, you know, and I think in many places on the site, it says, if you got a question, just ask. And, you know, I'm a bit of a night owl. And so, and I usually don't sleep that much. So people are able to get a hold of me pretty quickly. I'm pretty good about answering, you know, within the day. You don't have to wait long for me to answer. And you're aware of that.
Yes.
But people find that a lot of times they're not expecting an answer till maybe the morning, and then I'll just answer. So it's real easy to just, you know, just ask me anything. Because I mean, you know, we do convention supplies. So, I mean, we do retractable banners, we do, you know, tablecloths, you know, people are aware that we do like the poster prints and the postcards and, you know, but, you know, we can do mugs, we can do t-shirts, we can do mouse pads, we can do magnets. We can do a lot of things. So
that's awesome.
Just
actually,
you know, we'll do it.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much, Lindsey is gone, but I think all the questions that we wanted to ask at the moment are pretty much answered. And I really, really, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and talk. And I would actually like to have you back on again to answer some specific questions down the road, if you're willing to come back.
Sure.
And now
this was fun. You know, my first interview. And I get to come back.
Oh my God, yes. Well, you know, now that people will listen to you a little bit, and questions are going to end up coming directly to you, I'm sure. And if they want to ask me, well, then I'll ask you the next time. And it's great. Absolutely great. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful week.
You too.
Can't wait to order some more stuff through you, and I'm waiting for a whole bunch of things from you as it is. I highly encourage everyone to ask Karen any question that they may have. She's super nice, and quality is excellent. I've not once ever had an issue with that. Thank you again, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.